podcast where I, Richard Harris, talk about why I prefer the sports of the 80s and 90s to the sports of today. Today's topic: college football traditions. Maybe not traditions, but just college football. How about that? So, on a nice, wonderful day here in Los Angeles, 71 degrees, I sit and I watch college football. But in December, college football is conference championships, usually first weekend of December, Army and Navy, second week of December, Heisman Trophy announcement tonight. And then there is the FCS championship. The FCS, don't even know what it stands for. But basically, it's the Division One AA championship. So all the kids who didn't make Division One schools, who chose not to go to Division Two schools, they chose to go to a Division One AA school. UMass, my college, was a One AA school for a long time, until now it's taking its lumps playing in Division One A, and they're getting their brains beat in and out by conferences that are, well, by teams, schools that are bigger, stronger, and faster. We compete hard, but we are not at their levels. And what I like about Division One AA championship that I don't like about the system that we have in 1A championship. See, in the 1AA championship, you get a lot of matchups of teams that never play against each other, and you get some matchups of some teams that may play against each other. You have Montana, North Dakota State, South Dakota State, the number one team in the country, Villanova. Really good teams year in and year out. Produce some good professional football players. But you get matchups that you don't see all season long because they don't have the budgets usually to travel across country to play. And most of these games are regional games. When UMass was 1AA, he played New Hampshire and Maine, Delaware, and Boston University, Rhode Island. And then we would once in a while mess around and take our chances with Boston College or somebody that was bigger, stronger, and faster. That's what these schools do. Every team has a loss, except for South Dakota State, because they don't venture out, I guess, to play against a 1A team. But most of these schools will play against a 1A team to get that paycheck, make that money, and then go on and play their conference. Well, what I like about the system of the 1AA playoff is that it's not an event. It is a game that is played on the home field of the higher ranked team. So, can you imagine the playoff system that we have currently, where it would be Michigan, Alabama, and Ann Arbor and Washington in Texas out in Seattle. That was a great play, by the way. Someone just blocked a punt. Now he only just blocked the punt. He took it for a touchdown for South Dakota State. Now they're winning 9-6, pending extra point. The reason why you would never have this as a way the game would be played in the 1A setting is everybody is, excuse me, I'm very tired, very stressed out. The reason why you would not have it in the 1A setting is because of bowl integrity. Got to keep those bowls. Got to feed those bowls. And you got to get that money, get that millions from them bowls. Number one. Number two, in most cases, it's weather. You want to play in the most perfect conditions for a game to be played in. So you know that there's no excuse. You can't blame Mother Nature. The Super Bowl tried that in the NFL. They said, all right, let's play not in good weather. Let's put the Super Bowl in Giant Stadium. Remember that? They got decent weather, luckily. But the 1AA kids, no. You got to go play South Dakota in South Dakota. Got to go play South Dakota State in South Dakota State. You got to go to the South and play in the South. And it's funny because you think that the kids that play in cold weather love them trips to Florida, love them trips to Alabama, love them trips down south. But sometimes, because the weather is so warm at times down south, it hurts these kids from South Dakota, hurts these kids from North Dakota and Montana because they're not used to the humidity. But at least it's real. At least every element in a game, football is played in bad weather, period. In the NFL, they do it. College football, they do it. You have a helmet on to protect your head. That's the mentality. I got a helmet on. We can play football. And so, as badly as I'm sure Michigan and Washington would love to have to play these playoff games in their home stadiums to give them the fan advantage, field advantage, it'll never happen. But in the 1AA ranks, it happens. And therefore, it's kind of like normal. It's kind of like you got to go and beat somebody on their field. Now, 80s and 90s, we preferred the football because a lot of times in the 80s and 90s, we didn't get the matchups that we get today. See, today college football is obsessed, and college basketball is obsessed with destroying seasons early on. Meaning, Oregon will play Georgia, USC will play Texas, or UCLA will play Texas, USC will play Alabama, Miami will play Clemson, or in the same conference. Miami will play Tennessee. And it's the first game of the season, or the second game of the season, and you have to figure out The winner, if they win impressively, is in the buzz for the championship run, and the loser season is pretty much done unless they played a great game and lost the game late, or they're in a conference like Alabama lost to Texas this year at home. But they lost by double digits, but it kind of was like a late game. Texas got a good play late in the game and won by double digits. And then Alabama went on and had a good rest of the regular season and basically snuck their way into the championship game or the championship playoffs. Some people like that stuff. Some people sit back and it's funny. The whole buzz of Colorado football this year started with the win against TCU. And it's not like they beat TCU 56-6. They won 45-42, number one. And the nation kept saying they beat the team that played in the championship game last year. And those of us in the know, and those people who said that stupid statement know that they didn't beat the team that played in the championship game last year. They beat the school, but they didn't beat the team. Team that played in the championship last year, all their players are in the NFL or playing in Canada. So it wasn't even the same team. So for them to say that, as much as they kept saying all year long, was nauseating. And then they'd be like, "You're a hater. You don't like us." But my point is, they played the game, non-conference game, and essentially it was supposed to propel one of the schools, and Colorado got off to a great start and then fell apart. TCU did get off to a great start, but then played well for the rest of the season. And so there's always that first game buzz or that first big matchup buzz in college football. But I don't like it. I don't like it in college basketball when these teams are playing against these heavyweight matchups in December and November. They're not good enough yet. They're not the team that they're going to be in March or February. It's just like in college football. They're not going to be the same team in September that they are in November and December. Whether it's because of injuries, whether it's because of just the way they play. Oregon played Texas Tech this year, early in the season, and won by 3. And a lot of people said that Oregon was one of the best teams in the country towards the end of the season. Granted, the game was in Texas, and maybe that's what made the score what it was, because clearly, if this was played in Autzen Stadium in Oregon, Oregon would have been favored by 15, 20 points. And probably would have had a bigger margin of victory. But these 1AA schools, they may play each other during the regular season. North Dakota played South Dakota earlier this year, and both of them went on to have good regular seasons. But in this playoff format, it's random. They pick random matchups based on the rankings, and then they get down in these games on the home field of the higher seed, which I love. Let me think about it for a second. Can you imagine Alabama at Michigan, Texas at Washington? I'm being redundant, but it's the fact. Florida State playing Georgia. If they played them in the swamp, in Tallahassee, or if they played them in between the hedges, it'd be completely different games. Ohio State's playing what? Ole Miss. I think Ohio State would beat them anywhere they played them, but it would be a different game, and that's why I like the one double A. That's why I'm watching it instead of Syracuse Georgetown right now because well Syracuse is up big, but I'm watching that instead of this because essentially this is true football. This is true. You know, you got to earn it on the field, and you got to earn it on the home field of the higher seed. And I couldn't tell you one name of any player on this field. I see Watkins, Mercurio. Some kid just made a field goal in this. It's like 20 degrees and it's windy and there's no fans there except for like the diehard Hunters and diehard South Dakota State fans. Villanova's got tickets, but they nobody there. That's authentic old school football. I mean, look at the Army and Navy game later today. Games being played in Massachusetts. Army plays in New York. Navy plays in Washington D.C. The president is out here trying to get some paper for his reelection campaign. The president usually goes to these games. I wonder if he's gonna fly across country and go to the game today at Foxborough Stadium. Like I said, I just think that the sports world today is just too smart for its own good. Everything's about money. I mean, I look at some of these one double A kids. This is it. They're not going to play in the NFL. They may get a tryout, but they going to Canada. They're going to try to get in the XFL. Look what happened to Trey Lance. Trey Lance was the story of football 3 years ago. Remember? In fact, Trey Lance, this is what Trey Lance did, and his life has never been the same. Trey Lance was at North Dakota State, which was like the 6-time defending national champion. He and Carson Wentz set the NFL, or set college football on fire by winning all these championships. So Trey Lance's senior year happened to be, I think it was the pandemic year. And instead of playing, he played one game and had a great game and never played again in college. He's like, that's a wrap. You got to get ready for the NFL. You got this pandemic. I ain't taking no chances. And then now Trey Lance he gets a chance to play for the 49ers. He's drafted in the top 5. He is um, every week. So we keep hearing about Trey Lance this, Trey Lance that. Bring in Jimmy G. They bring in 85 quarterbacks. And when it was Trey Lance's turn, he got hurt. And then lost his job to Purdy. And now Trey Lance is in Dallas. And you say, what's the point? My point is, I don't really have one with Trey Lance. Just that he was a 1AA player. He could play. They found him in 1AA, and he's in the league, but he ain't playing. Look at Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz had a good run in the league. One injury, it's a wrap. He gets put on all these different teams, but not the same. That's why they say NFL stands for not for long. Whether that means because of injury or whether or not because of your performance. If you're good, you'll keep getting opportunities. If you're not good, you might get an opportunity to sit on the sidelines, carry a clipboard, but nobody gonna put you on the field. And yet that's another reason why I like the FCF people, because the FCF people, they play for the love of the game. Because for the most part, after playoff game, after their season's over, they're going to either become a broadcaster, play in Canada. But I digress. I'm going to enjoy it. I find it hilarious that all of the games, you got Idaho, you got Montana, you got North Dakota, South Dakota. They play college football there too. You got Furman University, Albany, Villanova. Top 8 teams in the country. North Dakota State's not even ranked. But North Dakota State's got history. And so therefore they get a lot of love and respect nationwide because they got that history. But just think about that for a minute. You imagine they're going to a 12-team playoff next year. Are the game's going to be held at a higher ranked team school, or they're going to be held at bowl sites to keep the integrity of the bowls? I think they're going to be held at bowl sites to keep the integrity of the bowls so that the bowls can give the schools that money. Because that's what all college football and college sports is about. That money.